Recording in progress. Welcome. One announcement up front, pending some change in plans. There may not be a Q&A, likely not a Q&A today. We'll see, unless my wife tells me otherwise. But as of now, it'll just be 1 hour. So, okay, so we want to start with getting clear on our intention. So this is really, it's one of the most important things. So it's really interesting how important it is, and yet it's so often overlooked because we think we know we think we know what we're doing, but we usually, if you just pause for a moment right now, and ask yourself, what is my intention? Why am I here? Why am I just in this meeting? Why am I here in this meeting? What am I hoping, or what is my intention for an outcome for this? Why am I here? Did you ask yourself that question before you showed up? Probably not. Most of the time we don't ask ourselves this question. What is my intention? What am I aiming for? And but you notice, okay, with much more trivial things, we do this, right? We want to know why am I doing this thing? What is my aim? What's my intention? What's my intended outcome, or my desired outcome? What's my purpose in this? Right? We ask these questions of much more trivial things. But of something that's really kind of the most important, we don't ask this. And not that I'm saying this meeting is the most important thing, but more like in my life today, like when you wake up in the morning, your whole day, it's the sort of the most important thing. I don't know what else would be more important. I mean, the fact that you're here in this moment, this is the most important thing. Nothing else could be nearly as important because everything else depends upon this. But we don't ask usually the question, what's my intention? It's just sort of, it's on autopilot, right? We just sort of assume, well, an awful lot. We assume that we kind of assume that it's implicit, that we just already implicitly know. But what is the implicit intention? It's just to kind of get through. So that's not satisfying. What is your intention for today? What if we started to really get clear on that? Because otherwise, you see what happens. You have there's this we'll say like a universal law. These are things that are useful to know, right? Like it's useful to know during your time here on Earth about gravity. That's a useful thing to know about. If you don't know about that, you'll get into a whole lot of trouble. So we want to know about these laws, natural laws, right? So like gravity is a natural law. These are things we want to know about them because they are helpful for us. So another one of them is that where you place your attention or your focus, that's what you experience. Right? This is not something we often consider consciously, but once I point it out and you look and see for yourself, you'll recognize that this is true. I mean, where you place your attention, that's what you experience. So this is why I point out that most of the time our attention, just out of habit, it's unconscious, but nonetheless, you can see that it's true. Our attention is on the problem. So we're constantly trying to solve the problem. But our attention, you see, we say, well, yeah, I'm trying to solve the problem, so my attention is on the solution. Sorry, but that's not true. Your attention is on the problem. See, you're trying to get away from the problem. You're trying to resolve the problem. You're trying to fix the problem. You're trying to do something about the problem. So your attention is actually on the problem. So it shouldn't be a surprise, therefore, to see that you get more of the problem, because that's where your attention is. So just test it out. You don't have to take my word for it. I never encourage you to just take my word for it. Well, is that true? Sometimes it's helpful just to take my word for it, but also no, really, you want to see for yourself. So really look and see for yourself. Don't just blindly agree or disagree, but rather it's an invitation to look for yourself and see the truth of it. That not the truth that I'm telling you, but the truth of it as is available to you, which can be seen by you. So just look and see. I'm pointing at something, and then you look and see, is that actually true? So test it out, you know, where you put your attention, what happens. So you can give your attention, it's very helpful then to start to notice where your attention is. So most of the time we don't even notice that our attention is stuck in thought, because we don't actually even know or recognize that there's something other than that. But here we can start to look and find out, oh yeah, there is something beyond thought. There's something other than thought. I am present when thought is not. So I'm not defined by or limited by thought. Thought comes and goes in me, in a sense. Okay. I am aware of the thought when it comes. I'm aware when it goes. So I am here continuously. And then we can just start to see, look, just observe in your direct experience and notice that actually it really just is an obvious fact that your experience is none other than where your attention is. Whatever your attention is on, that's what your experience is. So they're really just synonyms. Where your attention is your experience. Okay, so this is one of those important things that we want to see the truth of for ourselves. And then this is enormously, the implications are enormous. If it's just a theoretical conceptual thing and it just remains there, then it's not all that helpful. But if you allow it to penetrate so that you actually have you're opened up by this discovery, if you allow it to just continue to open you to looking and seeing what actually is, not what you are in the habit of seeing, but what actually is, then it totally changes everything in your life. So so getting clear on our intention is actually huge, because otherwise what's happening is we're just being driven by the unconscious. And the unconscious is it's just a repository, it's just a collection of dead knowledge. It's the past. So it serves a purpose. Please understand, the unconscious is not the enemy. It's not bad. We're not trying to get rid of it. We just have to understand that it doesn't define us or limit us. But most of the time, we are acting as though it does. So first thing is we have to realize, okay, where is my attention? Well, yes, my attention is on thought most of the time. And this thought is all just a regurgitation of this dead knowledge of the past. So it's what was learned. Now, has been functional up to a point. So it's important to understand this served a purpose at some point, whether in my life or in the lives of our ancestors. I mean, it was functional. That's how we can be here now. If our ancestors didn't know how to fight and run and avoid and overcome and all of these various strategies, then we that's how we survived to, that's how they survived to be here so that we could be here. Okay. So we are the, what is the word here? The inheritors of that legacy. And it's a mixed bag. Some of it is, well, I would say all of it is useful in the right context, but it's been generalized and thereby taken out of context. And this is where we get into trouble. So we need to see, okay, my attention is stuck in thought, and that's just an indicator that I'm really unconscious. I'm primarily unconscious. When my attention is stuck in thought, it's a sign that I'm primarily unconscious. But then there's good news, which is that I'm conscious enough to recognize that. So this is the opening. See, there's something has opened up a little bit just by this ability to recognize that I'm unconscious. So by recognizing that I'm unconscious, I'm suddenly a little bit conscious. Hopefully that makes sense. Because I'm conscious that I'm unconscious. So now there's conscious awareness. So something's on now, something's happened. It's like I've got my foot in the door. This is very important. So I have to recognize I've been unconscious. My attention was stuck in thought. Okay, now I need to, if I believe, as most of us are accustomed to doing, and it's not a conscious belief, it's an unconscious belief. This is important to understand. So don't take it personally. If you get defensive and you say, oh, no, I'm too evolved. I've learned all these things. I'm superior at, I don't get fooled by that. I know that, I know something about myself. Then you miss out on what's available, because if you're if you're taking it personally, guess what? Your attention's just on thought. So you're just staying stuck in the unconscious. But if you have the willingness not to take it personally, this happens because you recognize that the pain in the status quo, the pain of unconsciousness is too much. You can't bear it any longer. So this motivates you to be willing to no longer take it personally, right? You just say, okay, here I recognize that I'm taking it personally, and I don't know what else to do because I'm just so accustomed to only taking it personally and being defensive, defending the status quo unconsciously, but I think it's conscious because my attention's on thought, and thought tells me I'm conscious, but it's just another thought. So this waking up process means I have to be willing to admit, this is where I often point out, tell the truth. I have to be willing to admit I'm unconscious. It's only by recognizing that, you can't fake it and expect to get good results. So just saying as just some affirmation kind of thing you're just going to, or a mantra that you're just going to say over and over and over, it won't work. You can't just say, I'm unconscious, I'm unconscious, I'm unconscious. I mean, that will just lull you back into unconsciousness. But to actually notice what that's pointing to, right? You say, okay, what is it I'm supposed to remember? Oh yeah, I'm unconscious. Let me see now how that's true. Oh yes, my attention has been stuck in thought. Okay. Now notice that the moment that you do this, the moment you actually notice that you've been unconscious, what's revealed is a kind of, what I point out as a discomfort. So anything is possible. Please understand, there's no one thing that has to happen. but it's very likely that what will be revealed will be what you would consider to be uncomfortable. So if you experience discomfort, just notice what your habitual reaction is to the discomfort. Now, this is actually just a broad, we could generalize this now and say, whatever your experience, whether you consider it discomfort or great pleasure or anywhere in between, same thing applies, which is just notice what your reaction to that is. That's it. Because if there's discomfort, what you consider to be discomfort, then you want to notice, okay, now what is the reaction? I see now I'm becoming conscious of what was unconscious. So all of this reactivity is part of the unconscious pattern that keeps itself, it's a self sustaining process unless consciousness intervenes. Because as long as almost everything that's happening here is the unconscious. And so when you really start to wake up, when you really start to see what is being pointed to, then you'll recognize this, which is that all of this understanding that we think is taking place, none of it is taking place. There's no understanding taking place. You can watch and see that this is true. You have to watch yourself, and then you can start watching others. And what I mean by this is you start to notice that there's just this function that takes place that says, I understand, or they understand. Understanding is taking place. It's a function. It's like a light switch going on. It goes on, and we say, oh yes, understanding is taking place. It's sort of like that scene in the first Star Wars movie where, you know, the Obi-Wan Kenobi says to the whatever they're called, the things, says, these are not the droids you're looking for. And then they say, these are not the droids we're looking for. Okay, so this is what's happening most of the time within ourselves, is there's this function that's saying understanding is taking place. And we say understanding is taking place, but we're hypnotizing ourselves. It's self-hypnosis. But when you're awake, as I'm inviting you to look right now and see, every time you think there's understanding, look carefully and see, what does that even mean? What understanding? This argument, or the function that says understanding is taking place, what it's really saying is, go back to sleep. Stop paying attention. It's saying, I've got it taken care of. You don't have to be here, it says. But we need to tell the truth, which is, I'm in pain. So my job, now we're getting back to what is the intention. My job, what my real purpose, why I'm here, my intention actually is to be awake. So you have to see this pattern playing out, which is there's a certain level of wakefulness that occurs, and we have a set point for that. So there's a certain, by set point, I mean, it's where we're most comfortable. We could understand that there's like a spectrum of wakefulness. You know, the one end is complete unconsciousness, and the other end of the spectrum is complete awakeness. And we're somewhere on that spectrum in any moment. And it's dynamic, right? So some moments we're more awake, some moments we're more asleep. But we kind of tend to stay in a range, and we settle back into a same kind of basic level of wakefulness. somewhere on that spectrum. So you might have some moment of peak a wakefulness experience, but then you'll come back down. Now, over time, of course, that set point can shift. It's not fixed somewhere, but usually it's a gradual process. I mean, it can be a non-gradual process, but that can be very shocking. When that happens to people, they can go any which way. I mean, some of those people, that's like the Ramana Maharshis. And then there's the people in the insane asylums. So be careful what you're wishing for. We don't want like that enormous explosive experience. So we want to just see that the set point is shifting, but then we make the mistake of thinking, oh, well, that's just happening. You can participate in this process. Because who is awake or asleep? It's you. So you can be an active participant. And in fact, you will get much better results if you're an active participant, because otherwise what's happening is you are allowing yourself to go with the status quo. So evolution is taking place unconsciously. But are you sure that you want to just be unconsciously evolving? You don't. That's why you're here. So you want to be consciously experiencing. You want to be conscious. So this is you have to get clear. This is what you're here for. This is the purpose of your being in attendance in this moment. This is, or even more broadly, this is your purpose in this life. But notice how quickly we fall back asleep. Just look in your life and see how you can get clear in a moment of, if I point it out in this moment and you look for yourself, you can see, yes, that's nothing else will satisfy me. If I get all the things in the world, if I have everybody's approval, if I'm supremely comfortable, if I have all the luxuries, what is it that what experience can I get that will give me the true satisfaction? And if you utilize your imagination intelligently, you can play that through and you can recognize, yes, if I have all of these things, that I'm lulled into a slumber believing that that's going to give me what I want, which is what's happening most of the time. You see, that won't give me what I want, because all that's going to happen is then I'll have all those things, all those experiences, all those whatever, and I'll still feel unfulfilled. So what we really want is that deep fulfillment. That's really our intention. And then you look at, okay, what is it how do I go from where I am to there? If I have this moment of clarity now in which I realize, okay, yes, this is absolutely true, that the only thing that I really, really, really want is that deep satisfaction, abiding deep satisfaction, a sense of complete okayness, direct knowledge of that okayness, a living knowledge of that okayness now, 100%. When I have this moment of clarity that that's the only thing that will really satisfy me, then I want to then next ask the question, okay, how does that come about? Okay, well, so in order to answer that question, what we have to do is see, well, what is actually happening, so that I can see how it is that I get off track. I'm saying I want this deep satisfaction, complete satisfaction. Well, in these meetings, I in various ways invite us to discover directly for ourselves, to have this taste, this glimpse of this supreme truth that's here now. So you can, so in, everybody here by now, I hope you've had this glimpse. Now you might doubt it in this moment, but you've had the glimpse, and that glimpse makes it easier for you to have another glimpse. So right now in this moment, just make no effort just for a moment. Whew. Isn't it amazing how much effort was being made when it's pointed out, don't make any effort, and then you realize it's like when the refrigerator compressor is running and you're in the room with it and you don't notice it until it stops, and you're like, oh wow, that was so loud. So just to recognize for one instant right now this possibility of not making any effort. It doesn't matter if it resumes. It's just to see that truly it is a real, it is real, that there is this presence that you are, that is not a doing. It doesn't depend on any doing. So you could notice just how uptight you are most of the time, all this doing. Oh, I've got to protect, I've got to get, I've got to think, I've got to do, worry, I've got to do all these things. And then we get caught up in believing I am that. And then what a revelation. For one instant, make no effort right now. Just drop it for half a second. It's like as if you were riding a bicycle and you just took your hands off the handlebars and then you put them right back on. It's okay. But for 1/2 second, you don't have your hands on the handlebars, and it gives you the direct revelation that I don't depend upon that experience. I am, even when that experience is not. So even in the absence of effort, I am. So this is this actually, we could say the supreme realization. That's bold, I don't know, but it's it's a big deal. But then you see, you have this one glimpse. Notice right now, and it's repeatable. It's not, you can't hold on to it. I'm not saying that you hold on to it. I'm saying it's repeatable. Any instant right now, you just simply make no effort and hear what's revealed. I am. So this is what is the basis. We have to recognize this. We have to see this directly. Then all that's necessary is to see, okay, this is the satisfaction that I'm looking for. You see, this world has told us the wrong thing. This world told us that you have to do something to earn the satisfaction, and see that it never worked, because it can't work. And when you really see what's being pointed to, you see exactly how it's all working. So then you start to see why it could never give you what you really want. I want satisfaction. I want true satisfaction, not temporary so-called satisfaction, but true satisfaction, eternal satisfaction, the satisfaction that I am, not satisfaction that comes and goes as a result of some action, but the true satisfaction that is here underlying everything, that is the basis of all experience. This is what I'm wanting. Only this, nothing else will do it. So now see that this is what's here. It's already here in this instant right now. You don't do anything for it. It's here. See, it is truly radical, because it goes right to the root and questions. The root of this world is, as we understand it, our current understanding of the world, the root of that is I must do in order to have, right? I must do so that I can have, and once I have, then I can be. I have to do all of this work, and then I'll have the enlightenment experience, and then I can be enlightened, right? I'm going to do whatever, and then I'll have whatever, and then I can be what I want. Now, see why that doesn't work. You look to your direct experience. Why does it not work? Because we've put the cart before the horse. The being is not a function of having and doing. But the more that we identify as the doing and the having, the further we seem to be away from the being that we so desire. We desire to be deeply, eternally fulfilled, but we're saying the only way to get there, to have eternal fulfillment. I'm smiling because it's hilarious when we see how completely irrational it is. I'm going to achieve eternal happiness, eternal peace, eternal okayness uh, by doing these things and then having some temporary experience. How on earth is that going to yield eternal anything? But we fall for it. So this is why, again, I'm pointing out the importance of intention, because otherwise, if we aren't clear on the intention, we will fall. The mind will come up with all of its usual stories and we'll fall for them, even though they're absolutely insane. But we fall for them because, again, it's like, these are not the droids you're looking for. And we say, oh, these are not the droids we're looking for. It lulls us back into our stupor. It says, oh, you've got something new that you can think about. Go back to sleep. Oh, you've got some new thing that you can work on that you'll do tomorrow that will get you what you want. Go back to sleep. And we say, oh, yes, I have something new that will work for me and I can do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow, what happens? We wake up and we say, oh, God, so much like yesterday. Oh, when will tomorrow come? And so we want to see this is what we've been doing and that it produces reliable results. Why? Because of this universal law that where we place our attention, that's what we experience. So you notice that every time you say, oh, I've got something new that I can work on tomorrow, guess what? Tomorrow you've got something new you can work on. Endlessly. You're on a treadmill of your own creation because you keep falling for it. I've got something new that I can do tomorrow that will produce me the experience, that will give me the being. So we've got it all wrong. So now look in this moment right now. If you make no effort, you notice what's here. Satisfaction, peace. Nothing's needed. Now, what is this? It's not a doing, it's not a having, it's being. You don't earn it. It has nothing, it's not because of anything that you've done or that you have. It's crystal clear in the absence of any doing or having. Right? In this moment, just be willing to just drop everything. Drop the story. Drop the story. Drop all of it and drop everything for one instant. And then see, here is the lightness of being. This is the peace that you have been looking for. Then look what happens. So we just know thyself, you see. So this moment, this instant is clear. And then what happens is, then the thought comes up that says, oh yeah, but what about my problem? What was my problem again? How do I know that everything's okay? Let me think, what was I worried about? And then you say, oh, it didn't go away, but thank God I've got something new that I can think about and do tomorrow. That's why I attend these meetings, so I can get something new that I can think about and work on tomorrow. That was a good meeting. But this is totally not satisfying. So we want to be awake to it. We want to see what it is that I do. I fall for this every time, but don't fall for it anymore. See, here is this program that is running that lulls me to sleep. I am awake to that. I just see that is going on. I don't fight with it. I mean, you fight with it. Remember the politically incorrect story that I told you, the tar baby? This is every time you fight with it, of course, you just get your fists stuck in it and you're all sticky. That's more, then you just got more problem to focus on. Right? Then you say, oh, I was so stupid. I can't believe I did that. Oh, I'm no good. Oh, I'm bad. Oh, it's so uncomfortable. Oh, when's this gonna get better? Oh, I can only be okay when this is better. See, so we just get caught up in it. But you want to see the promise is that this right now is the answer. But we're so accustomed to, I've got to do something and have something before I'll be okay, that we just keep falling into the same pattern, and we think it's something new, but it's not. It's the same thing. No matter how many ways you dress it up, you can fool yourself, but then it actually is the same thing. So we want to notice, where is my attention? If my attention is in the thoughts, if my attention is in the past, if my attention is with excuses, which we've got to be honest is 99% of what's going on, then what are we going to expect? We're going to get more of the same. So we want to be crystal clear in our intention. My intention is freedom. My intention is peace. My intention is reality. Where is this discovered? When is this discovered? Right here and right now. So we have to, again, come back to this direct recognition. If you like tune out at this point, every time that I invite you to look, don't tune out. Don't make excuses. Just see what is happening. See the tendency to tune out. See the tendency to make excuses. Do you see? You have to become aware of the excuses. The excuses they're so old, but they keep working until you wake up to them. So you want to wake up to them and see how many, and we all do it. So it's not like you think, if we were to, I don't have this power presently, but if I had the power and I could chart everybody's level of consciousness, where you are on that scale of asleep to awake. And let's say we could, we'll line up from least awake to most awake. Okay, the one who's most awake and the one who's least awake, this applies. And everybody else in between, this applies. So don't think that you're exempted. It applies to you regardless of how awake or how asleep you are. Is to see that these unconscious patterns, which are limiting, are playing out. It's almost everything that's happening here, as I've said, is unconscious. It's not bad. We just want to know that that's the case. Because if we say that's not the case, then how then we're just lulled back to sleep. So it's not like you're gonna. A lot of the time we make this mistake of we become very attached to our progress, right? So you maybe notice that you get attached to your sense of progress, like you charting your progress. So I think I'm doing better, compared to 5 years ago. I think I'm much more awake. So we become attached to that, identified with that, and then we're defending that. And we're filtering everything. We're saying, well, this doesn't apply to me because of my level of progress, or that does apply to me because of my level of progress. And we're doing all this totally unnecessary effort. And then we want to be honest and see, is this yielding the outcome that I want? What is my intention? Well, again, we have to be clear. What is my intention? Has to be wakefulness. That has to be my intention. It's the only intelligent thing, because again, we have to come back and recognize, otherwise, unconsciously, what is happening, what's driving everything, the motivation behind everything, is to maintain the status quo. Remember, the set point, we don't want to deviate too much from that, as if we're going to remain unconscious. You can remain unconscious and, slight fluctuations. But too much of a fluctuation, you're going to become conscious. It's too much dynamism alerts this consciousness. It's like, whoa, hold on, wait a second, what's going on? So when there's enough of a deviation, you become more awake. So then what happens, because we're not practiced, because we're not consciously prioritizing wakefulness, then we view that again through the filter of the unconscious, which says, holy cow, that's bad. Bring it back to the set point. Which is why I point out that we're working hard all the time, unconsciously, to maintain the status quo, but we call it something else. We think, I'm working really hard to wake up. I'm working really hard to help myself. If you're working really hard, it's a sign. It's like the alarm is going off saying, hey, pay attention. You're doing it wrong. It shouldn't hurt. So we have to learn to differentiate between discomfort and pain, because they're not the same thing. And but we usually conflate them. We think they're one and the same. And so, of course, we're going to react then to discomfort exactly as we would react to pain. And pain is supposed to be a signal that there's danger, there's harm pending. So take some action. But because we're conflating the two, and 99+% of what we're experiencing is not pain, but rather it's discomfort, we're reacting to it as if there's danger. But actually, it's a huge gift. It's saying, wake up. And that's exactly what we're wanting. So you have to see the perfection and brilliance of this. Your true heart desire is for wakefulness. That is being fulfilled in every moment, because you notice it's happening. There's something that's getting your attention, and it's saying, wake up. But we don't follow through all the way. What happens is we say, oh, but I'm overwhelmed. It's so painful and scary and uncomfortable and bad. And oh, I'll have to wait it out. When this is better, when this pain has reduced, then I'll be ready for being awake. But it doesn't work that way. because what the perfection of reality is delivering to you exactly what you're desiring, but you're not clear on what you're desiring. You see this is the point. We say, I want fulfillment, and then fulfillment is delivered, and then you say, take it away. It's too much, because we're calling it we're saying it's pain, it's bad. I didn't want this. We say, this is exactly what you asked for. So it has everything to do with where our attention is, because reality is presenting itself perfectly. It is, and remember what I said about understanding. We lull ourselves back to sleep because we think I'm understanding. I think I know how to properly understand and interpret this experience that's happening. Big mistake. Because you know how you're going to understand and interpret this experience? Through the mind. And what is the mind? It's only a repository. It's just a collection of this dead knowledge of the past, which served its purpose. But what was its purpose? To survive. But you're not interested in survival. You're interested in peace. So every time we turn to this dead knowledge, what is it going to do? It's going to deliver reliably that which is fear. Survival is fear. Survival is predicated on a problem. That problem is the assumption that I'm not safe. That this should not be happening. What is happening is a threat. So we keep ourselves trapped in this vicious cycle because we have one intention, which we have a momentary glimpse of clarity. I want freedom. I want peace. I want true eternal satisfaction. And then that's delivered. And then we say, this is terrible. Woe is me. Take it away. Okay. And then we say, okay, now I'm ready. I want peace. And round it goes, because peace is delivered and we say, this is not peace. It's just this. What's happening though is that we say, I want peace. Peace is delivered, but we can't. But then we make this terrible mistake of turning back to the mind, which is this filter that can't understand peace. Peace is other than what the mind understands, and thereby the mind interprets it as it's a threat. Can't handle that. It's too shocking. That's what the mind says. So the mind's doing its job. It just says, hey boss, you told me to have the set point here. Keep it all right around here, right, boss? And so I'm going to just keep it here, boss. And you're proposing something that's way outside of that. So that's, I can't handle that. That's got to be a threat. I got to keep it down here, boss. And then it says, these are not the droids you're looking for. And you say, these are not the droids I'm looking for. And the next thing you know, you're back in you're not even back. You continue to be caught in the vicious cycle. So what's the remedy? The remedy is the glimpse is essential. And then step 2, see, step 1 is the glimpse. Step 2 is to see what is through the lens of the glimpse. See, the lens of the glimpse is clear. Now, the mistake that we make is we think, oh, but if I'm seeing through the lens of the glimpse, which is clear, then it should be all wonderful, right? It's according to whom? According to the mind? No. But then the question is, where's your attention? If you put your attention back in mind, what is going to happen? You know what's going to happen. The mind's going to say, freak out. You must freak out. This is terrible. This is something awful. And if you question it, it will say, no time for that. No time. This is terrible disaster. You've just got to we got to get this right, get this all sorted out and fixed before we can consider anything else. So hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully you can recognize this in your own experience, this vicious cycle, and hopefully it starts to become clear what the true remedy is. So when I'm saying that you step one is the glimpse, which just means just make no effort right now for just for a moment, just for a second, half a second, quarter of a second. And notice in this one instant, there's no problem. Well, there's nothing, right? I mean, there's no problem, but then what goes along with that is there's no one to defend, no one to protect, no one to glorify, no one to extend into the future, nobody who needs anything. There's no need, there's no desire, there's no nothing, because it's already fulfilled. Everything is right now, simply is. Not when I say everything, I don't mean every differentiated thing, I mean the totality is now, it's glimpsed. If that sounds like too glorious, like too much of a stretch, not mundane enough, please understand, I'm not saying that it's not mundane, it's completely ordinary. If you're looking for something else, then you'll keep on looking for something else. What I'm saying is just glimpse the reality of what is now, and then just tell the truth about it. Just see that what is now there's no need. I'm not talking about in the future. Of course, there's so many needs in the future. I'm saying right now, just in this moment right now, which is not bound by time. So you can just glimpse it. You can't think about it, not really, because the thinking about it is where it's in the mind again. So it's saying, oh, what was that? That was weird. That was weird. What was that like? And then it starts to figure out what it was like instead of what it is. So then it draws all these comparisons to what's already known, then we're back in the same thing. So but just in this one instant, you notice it all is well. There's no problem. Nothing's needed. So that's the essential step one. But then, of course, as we see, so are we to just forever keep our attention out of mind? Some would tell us that's true, but I would say that if that's a requirement, then if it's a requirement for peace to keep attention out of mind, that sounds very much like something conditional. And then I'm wondering, is that really what I want? So I have to, again, it's clarifying, what do I really want? Well, no, I want unconditional peace. So I'm glad for this clarification, right? I have this experience and it reveals something to me so that I can clarify my intention. So it's like it's a dynamic process. Life is delivering up exactly what I'm intending. And then it's up to me to continue this dance in which life is delivering, and then it's a further refinement. I say, is that what I meant? And what's revealed really, what's life is revealing is the conditioning. So there's some change that takes place in the conditioning due to the intention. And then because I can experience it, it's clarifying, and I can look and see, is that really what I want? I can say, oh, closer, that's much closer. Okay. However, now I have some further clarity. So what I want unconditional peace, Okay, so now back to, now I watch. Okay, so now I want unconditional peace, and now I see unconditional peace is delivered. So now I have to continue this process of refinement. Now what that means is I'm not cutting away mind. See, the experience is mind, but now it's a dance rather than it was, oh, I'm dependent on the condition of the mind. Oh, woe is me, the mind is such a mess, therefore I am such a mess. No, that's the cart before the horse. But to put things in the right order is that first I recognize that I am. I recognize that I am peace. I am fulfillment. I am unconditional. Now, from this clarity, I gaze upon mind, and mind is a manifestation, or it is manifesting, however you want to understand it, that intention. So that now there's this dynamic dance is taking place. So then I'm lightly like playing with mind. So this is really what the peace inquiry is. The peace inquiry is step one: recognize in this one instant that I am unconditional peace. And again, as I often point out, you can't skip this step. This is the essential step. Nothing else works if you don't sincerely do this one step. And then but that's just step one. Step two, because we're not saying I want conditional peace that depends upon the condition of no mind. I'm saying I want unconditional peace. So now what step two is, okay, great. So now I'm setting that unconditional peace free. Okay, so this unconditional peace is discovered here at the heart of being. Doesn't depend upon anything, but it's not really dynamically expressed. It's just recognized in its potential, right? So we can recognize that here, in the absence of any doing for 1/2 second, is unconditional peace. But then to really set that free means that that also has to be true in expression. So now, second step is I imagine now that this unconditional peace is expressing as what is my most intimate experience, right? So this, my thoughts, my body, my emotions, my relationships. These are the ways in which we experience ourselves, right? This is the way in which we understand our world. This is what mind is. Mind gives the sense of self-expressed. There's self-being. We can recognize self-being. This is what's glimpsed in this one instant of no effort. And then there's self-expressed. So we imagine this unconditional peace expressing as my mind, my body, my emotions, my relationships. And then you just notice as it's like you're continuing to see through this clear lens of self-being, but then you notice now what's the conditioning in the mind that says, hold on a second, I don't agree with that. Right? Like, what do you mean unconditional peace expressing as my body? Well, that couldn't be. So we just want to see that. That's the conditioning that's there. But it's not true. It serves some purpose. There's a context in which it's useful. But we want to see all beliefs are, in the absolute sense, they're not true. They're only true in a relative context. And we want to have the efficiency of being able to make use of those beliefs impersonally in the correct context and not in the incorrect context. So this is a refinement process where life is delivering exactly what we're ordering up. And then it's up to us to continue to clarify, what do I really want? It's like, okay, this is maybe kind of close, but here's some further refinement based on this experience. I'm realizing, yes, but, or yes, and. So we just continue that dance where we glimpse, I am peace, I'm unconditional peace, I am freedom, I am formless reality. And then we imagine that this unconditional peace is expressing as my body, my mind, my emotions, and my relationships. And you'll start to see how that reveals that I don't depend upon any of those conditions, that actually you see, the truth is revealed in these experiences, that I am already unconditional peace. The unconditional peace that is undisturbed by any of these things, for good or for bad, right? So it's to realize I am unconditional peace. This is the truth. This is discovered in every experience, bit by bit. So it's an ongoing inquiry. It's a way of life. It's not a way to attain some future state. It's a way to enter into the aliveness of now consciously. And it is a radical shift from the way in which we are accustomed to understanding ourselves and understanding life. It is enormously transformative. So I haven't heard otherwise from my wife, so I'm going to assume that our plans are as they were. So we'll wrap up now, and we won't do a Q&A today. Thank you as always for joining me. And last week we had a power outage on Tuesday, which is why the Tuesday meeting didn't happen. Barring a power outage or something of that sort, though, tomorrow's meeting is scheduled as usual, and so I invite you to join me tomorrow if you would like. And otherwise, I'll see you whenever next time is for you. Blessings to you. Bye for now.